I just want people to have the full effect before this week is over of this shirt. It is Lizzo, our girl, who is no stranger to shaking that ass and not apologizing. I don't know who was at that Clippers game or that Staples game, or excuse me, Staples game, like Lakers game. Will we ever have a Lakers game again? Anyway, I don't know. But I wore this shirt all week to kind of celebrate the types of performances, types of performers who use their platforms responsibly to create a world that, like, we need to see this change up in. And I thought that there would be no one better than Lizzo. Like I said, my friend Martin, who's an artist, he made this shirt for me custom. Lizzo, I hope you're watching this at some point, and I hope that you understand that, like, I stan, truly. You can find me at Tre Borden anywhere you want. But anyways, I think it's especially apropos for this next guest, who is Qween Amor. She is a trans performance artist and activist, and she, one of her primary performance strategies and kind of like actions is twerking. Twerking and twerking and twerking and twerking and making sure that you know who she is, what she's about, that you're not going to ignore this trans body. She performs at prides. She performs on cop cars. She Pied Pipers people through, you know, all types of different events, kind of making sure that people are being seen. She is absolutely fearless. She is absolutely magnetic. When she speaks, you listen because she only says true ass shit. You may not want to hear it, and if you don't want to hear it, then it probably pertains to you, you know. And then when you kind of like are met with something so at times subversive, something that goes against what our society says is acceptable or polite or permissible or attractive or safe, you really have to be bold, you know? I mean, you really have to be open-minded, but in order to be that person bringing you that message in that kind of presentation, you have to be absolutely courageous and know who you are. You know, you really have to know who you are and say, this is me, see me, accept me. And if you don't, it don't matter because I'm shaking my ass right next to you anyway. So I was so glad that Qween agreed to join us. And here's our conversation.
Howdy.
Hey, look at that. I love your backdrop, by the way. That's always
Thank you.
I had to move my my studio from LA. Well, I didn't have to. I got the opportunity to go to Palm Springs. My friend's like, "Do you want some sun?" I was like, "Yes, I would." But then I had to like find a brand new backdrop, and I was like, "Well, I know we're talking about America at some point today, so here we go." Well, great. Well, thank you so much, Qween, for talking with me again. It's always good to see you. I can't imagine what's going down where you are. And, you know, coming on to what we go and do this week, we're talking about kind of the power of performance and kind of how people who are using their voices and their platforms and their bodies and putting them in places and in front of people who need to hear and think about their message. And so I can't think of anyone whose message needs to be heard more loudly and clearly and more often than yours. So, briefly, why don't you just kind of tell everyone who's watching, like who you are, kind of what your practice usually is, and maybe how you developed kind of your practice of going around and showing people what they need to be shown by shaking that ass and doing sermons and letting them know about themselves in America. Kind of like, who is Qween?
So a long time ago, back when I first got involved in activism, I was in Orlando. I was in school. And I was sitting up behind my computer watching people, you know, protesters getting maced for holding space. This is nothing that I cared about before these, before these moments when, and having an emotional response to seeing people like me being assaulted and abused and not having their rights recognized. So this was like during the whole Occupy movement, which turns out Occupy had some, major issues. But Occupy did get me started. I bought a van. I was like, you know what? I need to get involved. I don't know what's going on or what I can do, but I can do something. And that music started speaking to me in a very spiritual way, where I was beginning to identify pieces of me through music. And a lot of, I'll tell you that I call this these moments in the beginning of Qween Amor, where, as the beginning of my transition, where the beginning of this journey to understand gender, to embrace my own identity, to, find out what it is that I believe and who I am and where I belong and what my purpose in life is. Because also all of the music that I'm listening to says that, you need to go out and enjoy the one life that you got. And you need to, there's messages in the music that can't really be understood with typical language. And, so I came to believe that music was a form of communication. Mm-hmm. And I never wanted to be a dancer. I never imagined being a performance artist, but I found that it was the only way to communicate this message, our humanity. How do you express your humanity? How do you explain it? How do you explain love? If you, seeing, Occupy and seeing the way that protesters are being, abused and not having the rights, recognized by the state, how do you use, how do you bridge that gap? How do you tell everybody, hey, maybe we should come together and unify, and we should enjoy this little moment that we got here. And, and there's a fucking song for everything. Let me tell you, there is a song for everything. They're even making music about coronavirus. Let me tell you.
That Cardi B, that was welcome to my first week of quarantine. Coronavirus. I've sent to every single person. They hate me. My friends are like, if you send us one more remix of Cardi, I'm like, but this is literally getting me through this shit.
But, for the longest time I was homeless doing this, and I was just traveling from city to city, not really knowing what it is that I'm doing, just knowing that I need to be a part of this movement, that I need to I need to do something. And I don't think it's really come to a point of full fruition the way that I see it in my mind, but I have learned through the years how to take the music, dance so freely, and then get all the people around me to dance with me. And then I pretend like I'm leaving, and they all follow me in the street. It's like like a Pied Piper. I figured out the puzzle of the what is it? The Pied Piper?
Yeah, the Pied Piper. I feel like, with all the kids, doing that.
That is it. That is our queer, queer exodus.
One thing that we may do for this, which we haven't done for any other interviews, is that we might splice in a video of your performance. But for those who haven't seen it, obviously, kind of give the full persona of Qween Amor, which if you see that shit in person, it is going to change you. It is something that is impossible to ignore. It does center kind of a POC trans body in the middle of group of people who would a lot of times would do all they could to kind of not give that person space or acknowledgement. And so kind of just paint the picture of what a performance of yours is like, and usually the context it's in.
Yeah. And it's, you have to acknowledge my existence. And, and I'm fucking loud about it too. I am blasting music on the fucking street corner. And honestly, people in America have forgotten the value of their lives. People have, I feel like society has started putting the value of our humanity in dollars and cents, and that makes no sense at all. Because at the end of the day, you can't take that shit with you. And the only thing that you're going to have when you die is your experience. And do you really want to waste the only 60, 70, 80 years that you're going to have if you make it that long? Working some 9-to-5 job, doing some shit that you fucking hate? Really? I don't know. I've been poor my entire life. And let me tell I recognize the struggle of what I do, because I'm putting myself in a very marginalized and vulnerable way, where people don't understand what I'm doing. But they have to rationalize it. They have to make sense of it. They don't know what's going on. Women react with more loving acceptance and tolerance than men do. Men don't dance with me.
Share with me kind of like, what are you, I mean, like the bare bones, like what are you wearing? What type of music, you know, what does Qween Amor look like? I mean, I want to give people a sense who haven't seen it, how this appears to the person that watches your performances or stumbles in many ways upon your performances if they're not expecting it.
Yeah, because I don't promote it.
Right, well, that's the whole thing.
So if you catch me, I'm probably wearing a thong. I'm probably carrying a crucifix and wearing a pair of devil horns. Most of my attire is, stereotypical gay leather, the leather circuit shit, so I'll wear really very revealing, but I'm wearing clothes, you
Sure.
can just see my
You're not breaking any laws.
I'm really not, although they really try it though for public lewdness. Like I've been arrested here in New Orleans for twerking. And
wow, and this is you're hardly the only person twerking in New Orleans. Wow, I mean, you're really doing something special to get arrested for twerking in New Orleans.
Yeah, well, but also doing what I do, I recognize that I'm going to be faced with homophobia. I'm going to be faced with violence. I'm going to be faced with things that I might get shot. I've been shot at. I've had someone pull a fucking gun out on me and tell me that if they saw me shaking my ass near their fucking kid down the sidewalk or some shit, that they were going to shoot me. And holding a fucking gun in his pants. And I'm like, well, bitch, you need to watch your mouth. Like in my mind, I'm like, you need to watch your mouth right now. And you just need to get away because this motherfucker will shoot you. And he will feel justified in shooting you. And knowing the reality of who you are, he'll probably end up getting away with it.
Right. I mean, you're like, they're not exactly out here holding people to account who murder people of color, trans people, anyone. And so in this era where typically your performance is like when we met and when we were on the panel during World Pride in New York last June, Pride celebrations are a very typical place that you might go to kind of like either be a part of the celebration, but also call out hypocrisy and kind of erasure that's a part of those Pride celebrations. Tell me a little bit more about that.
So Pride, and I have created space for myself at Prides across the United States. And I feel as if being at Pride, we have to reclaim space. We have to force the gay community to see us. Because in my experience, I have found that gay men are also probably one of my top 3 oppressors. Hands down. And I get it. We need, I get it. I identified as gay for 24 years and I still do. I'm going to be fucking gay till the day I die, but also, I don't have that privilege and entitlement of, that comes with, oh, you know what? We're going to spend hundreds and thousands of dollars on a fucking float. And, we're not going to, say Marsha P. Johnson's. We have, they don't know their history. They don't know that when you go to Pride, you're celebrating our collective individuality. You're celebrating the struggle that we have faced since before Stonewall. And what they don't realize is that when you, go out and you look at Pride like a big old fucking party, which is all fine and dandy, go ahead, party. But you're forgetting that your rights can be taken away like that tomorrow.
Right, and we're seeing that happen.
And they need to see people in the community fighting and protesting and standing up and living their best lives and, being free, because at the end of the day, this is who we are, and there's a narrative within gay society, within gay culture that, you need to be masculine or you need to be straight acting and you need to assimilate so that you
can be white.
You need to be white. I can't do that. Right. That's not within my ability to do so. So what options do I have? You know, if I'm assimilation can't, you know, it's just impossible for me. I cannot, I will not. No.
You should not.
No, hell no, you know, but also like it is also scary for a lot of people within, you know, a lot of trans women and for a lot of queer, you know, a queer identifying people where going into a public space and being so visible is intimidating. It's terrifying, you know, and I've seen that a lot of trans women, they don't show up.
Mm-hmm.
They don't show up. They don't show up because they're too busy trying to survive in this fucking society. But I make it a point to show up, even if I'm gonna get, you know, even if I'm gonna be called all sorts of names and disingenuine, or you know what's the fucking word I'm looking for? You know, if I'm outcasted by fucking gay men, you know, and shamed and, you know, guilted. And they look at me like, oh, we don't want to see this. What are you doing? Oh, my goodness.
Well, I think a lot of people who are used to being oppressed or have had, you know, or maybe still continue. It's hard for people who aren't free to see free people. You know, it's hard for people who have to kind of go into, I'll tell you as a gay man, like this, I mean, me not personally, but lots of gay men go into spaces and they're so concerned about what are people thinking about me here, or like what do they think about what I'm wearing or who I'm with or what my hair looks like. I mean, like I'm worried about what my hair looks like 24/7, but I don't let it stop me from going into no place I want to go.
I just cover it up with some fucking rags.
But you know what I mean? And so I think that when that's the vibe, and we've all been to parties or situations where you go in there and like you feel judged instantly and you're like, this is not a safe space. This is not an affirming space. This is not a space that's meant to make anyone here feel great. It's meant to kind of like put us in a hierarchy. And so when someone walks into that same space with a thong and a crucifix, living their life, shaking their ass, calling out people for what the fuck they're, you know, saying they're about, but not living like they're about that. And I think that that is something that is really difficult for people to reckon with. And so that's why it's so valuable and it's so refreshing. It's like, that's some shit I can get down with up in this like boring party is someone doing that. And so what are some reactions that you feel like have been, you know, because many of the people that you're performing for don't expect it, you know, which I think is very different. Like all of us have been to a club and expected some kind of, you know, drag or kind of trans based or whatever performances that we're like there to see. That's a different environment than like being in a place where it just pops up. And kind of what have been some of the more important interactions throughout your practice?
So I'll tell you that it's been, it's really been 50-50. Where on one hand, people respond with a great, you know, some people respond with a great brilliance, where they're so inspired and so touched and so moved and so honored to even share space, you know. And those people will stop and they'll dance with me and we'll share a moment and they'll never forget it. It is something that, you know, even just today, someone messaged me, sent me a text message who is writing a poem, you know, about something I did 2 years ago in New York. And, you know, it's something that people don't forget. It's ingrained. And it depends on the mentality that, you know, whoever's looking at it. You know, if you know, some people will see me and see, you know, God. Some people will see me and look at me like I'm the fucking devil. Or, you know, some people will see me as I'm evil and vile and disgusting. And then they treat me the way that they see me. But I cannot, and I will not, shift my practice to comfort the ignorant. And I recognize that when I'm, you know, faced with someone else's ignorance, which has nothing to do with me, you know, but also I, you know, will carry that for that moment, you know, and, you know, do the best that I can to not, you know, to not be violent, to not, you know, get nasty back, you know, because that doesn't make anything better. That just makes it worse. You know, these people, you know, the people who treat me, you know, who justify punching me in the face. I've been punched in the face, I've been shot at. I've been like, I mean, I'm telling you, this has not been, I'm not out here.
And in these incidences, At prides or at other locations or both?
Really, it's at Pride last DC. Was it last DC Pride, or maybe it was a couple DC Prides ago, where I got all of these black women to follow me in the street, and then we crashed the parade. And when we got in front of one of these floats, this white gay man came up to me and told me, "You're ruining everything," and took my speaker and like tried to call the cops or whatever. So I had to fight him for my fucking speaker. Like, cause it's like, ooh, let me tell you, I hate when people touch my fucking speaker. I can't say, I spit on him. It was like how fucking dare you? I have like 50 black women that I'm twerking with right now, and you're coming out here from the fucking woodwork telling me that I'm ruining everything because
that sounds like the best thing at Pride.
Like yeah, no, it's really amazing. But really, what we're talking about, you know, when I go to a Pride, gay men, a lot of white gay men will look at me like I'm fucking nuts. Like when you know. I have not dated in 10 years. Want to know why? Because of who I am. And I haven't figured that one out yet. If I'm you know, I think I'm okay with it. I think I'm okay with it because people don't want to you know, get to know me because they think you know, have some preconceived idea, you know, about what I do. There's a lot of shit that goes into this, and I'm telling you, I was not prepared when I decided to do this.
Well, I mean, none of us were, and a lot of us aren't prepared now. And I think that that's something that's interesting. I want to get into now is that, you know, you were, I know, gearing up for Pride season, which is a season that would typically kind of like give you your biggest stage and kind of where you feel most comfortable. And those are all canceled. And it's also dangerous to be outside. Yeah. But what's emerged is a world that like needs people to snatch space back more so than ever. And now the only people going out there demanding it are people who are, I would say, how do I put this in a way that's like defensible, but it's like crazy whites, you know, who are just out here just saying like, I need my haircut. I need to not be oppressed. This is real slavery. This is our Rosa Parks moment. It makes me want to die when I hear these people out here kind of acting oppressed, when that is the only reason they feel that way is because they actually have never experienced that. So like, how are you responding to this?
So I'm taking it with a grain of salt because I know that what we do right now is going to live forever in history and in cyberspace. I don't see the internet going away anytime soon. And I'm really think like people don't understand that the things we say and do define who we are. And, you know, there are certain communities of people and there are certain sects who, fine, you know what, you want to go out and you want to believe that, you know, we're all going to hell and that we should be going back to work and that we should be obedient, or whatever the fuck it is, fine. You know, you can go ahead and believe that and you fight like hell for your right to do that. But my ass is staying home. My ass ain't fucking risking it. Want to know why? Because I have a long life ahead of me and I'm not going out by Corona. It's going to take a hell of a lot more than coronavirus to take me down. Let me tell you. I don't, you know, but also there's nothing we can do about it. Mm-hmm. There's nothing, and a lot of the work that I do is like this juxtaposition of
it's worth also mentioning that you're trained to be a nurse.
Yeah.
So you understand the medical aspect as well. You're not, you know, ignorant.
It's ridiculous. Anyway. And even, you know, you don't have to wear a mask all fucking day because you're really just breathing in your own CO2. Which, you know, like people, you know, I was on an ambulance call like a couple of weeks ago, but I decided I'm not going to do, like, I'm not doing it. I'm going to wait to be an EMT. I took one fucking ambulance ride 2 weeks ago. Let me tell you something. I'm not doing it during coronavirus. It's crazy. And,
I don't blame you, honestly.
No, like, but also, like, I believe that everyone has a right to take up space in the safe, you know, in a safe way and express their viewpoints. Now, you shouldn't believe that everyone should agree with what you're saying and doing. I have learned that not everyone is going to love what I do. In fact, there are people who are going to hate it, but also I have a right to do it. I have a right to take up the space. I have a right to be here. I have a right to express who I am. I should be able to play this music on this fucking sidewalk and not be punched in the face and not get arrested. Like, I should have the freedom to do this in America. But our idea...
We should have the freedom to jog too. We should have the freedom to do whatever.
But we don't, you see. And we have believed in this disillusionment of freedom. That freedom is not free. You must pay to be free. Like for your freedom, you must pay in some way. It's not free. It don't come easy. You have to fight for it. You have to, you've got to do some shit to be free. And for me, freedom has been a lonely road. But I choose my freedom, despite what anybody else may say about it.
Despite the cost. Costs to your safety, costs to, sometimes costs like new speaker costs or whatever ends up being. Yeah,
you know how many fucking, I have sucked dick for a new speaker so many fucking times. I can't believe let me tell you.
I mean, you got to do what you got to do. I'm not here to tell you what a speaker's worth.
This is my cost for, fighting for what I believe in. And, if those white Christian, Republican, whatever the fuck it is that they're doing, and their, coronavirus hoax or whatever, they have the right and the space to, to believe and, practice whatever the fuck they can.
What would you anticipate, and would you be willing, because right now, we're not going to have prides, and we're hurdling towards an election. I mean, please God, not a re-election, but at least an election of someone who I think has emboldened these people. And, they are going to be taking up more and more space, especially if they're the only ones out there. Like, what would it be like to go to an event like that and shake your ass, as opposed
I might get shot by some asshole with an AR-15. I might end up in jail. If I showed up to a rally like that, we're talking about two completely different worlds colliding. Yeah. Because everything I am is everything they fight against. Who I am as a person, fundamentally, spiritually, as a person, is everything they think is wrong with our country. And I see that, but I'm not going to change who I am to fit their stupidity. That's ridiculous. That's not even an option. They're just going to have to get used to the fact that you can't just, I don't know. But they can walk on fucking Capitol Hill with a fucking AR-15 and get away with it.
Not without you there too, shaking your ass with a fucking crucifix.
Bitch, if that's America, I want to do it so bad. I'm so serious. I want to find out when they're scheduling these protests so that I control their asses. With a big old sign, right to bare ass, with my little crucifix. But this is performance art. This is where you take, you have this situation where these people believe what they're doing is right and, believe they're justified. And then here comes along someone else who is just very loud, not actually the exact opposite. Do I deserve to die?
Well, it's like if you...
do I deserve, to be beat up and assaulted? And if by chance, if I was to show up to one of their shit shows and I was assaulted and violated or whatever the fuck, they would find it. And this is the crack in our cosmic egg, is that we justify the things that we do and we know is wrong. So if I was to go to one of these places and I got shot in the head, there will be people who said, well, that's what you get for acting like an idiot, man. Or, this is, or that, she had it coming, or like, what was she thinking? Or like, somehow it would be my fault for, but not the people who shot me, Well,
that
those
type
people
of
were, like but now we're talking about a very fundamental crack in our system, a broken system. Now we're talking about we need to reform the way, and we need to shift our entire culture. Like our entire culture needs to change. Yeah, go ahead. Sorry.
No, I mean, I completely agree. And I think that I think one thing that we're going through now, especially now that we're all at home looking outside, all the performances have halted, all of our kind of access to audiences have, we're our own audience, and we're also all performers in some way. And I think that how do you see what's going on in this country and not feel as if the problems and hypocrisies that you were pointing out before are even more blatant and are even more in need of your presence? And then you're faced with the fact that to make your presence available is to risk your life in even more ways than usual.
And it's people of privilege don't recognize that. They don't see it that way. They see it as, they don't see the performance and the art behind it because they're too busy judging it, and they're too busy, I've been out here fighting GMOs and police brutality and this shit since before Black Lives Matter came out. Since before, all of, and, every time these, these movements, which are so imperative to happen, conversations that need to happen, it really does take a collective shift, like a movement like Black Lives Matter, to bring it into consciousness. Because even if I, had made a post about it on Facebook or did some performance art in the street, about, a man that was murdered unarmed, no one is listening. No one's paying attention, and for the, people don't care. And people don't care until, shit hits the fan. And now we're changing the language of our culture and incorporating things, hashtags like Black Lives Matter, Trans Lives Matter. And we're, in a slow way, redesigning the conversation and the structure of our system, just on a conscious level by, incorporating different, like Bernie Sanders had his movement, and he just, but he took Occupy, and the Occupy is 99%, and the 1% is what created what kind of built a platform for Bernie Sanders to be successful as a democratic socialist. So we're all building on, ideas. And, we're all, trying to, we all need to create, we all know that the system needs to change. And the only way to do it is to put out ideas. And some ideas are going to stick. And some ideas are going to, and some are not. What is it that thing that fucking Jesus said? Some seeds that you sow are going to land on rocks, and some are going to land on fertile soil. You just got to spit the seeds out. You just got to toss them all over the fucking place. And it doesn't matter how it comes out. And it doesn't matter how, what people think of it. And it doesn't matter what people think of you either,
Well, Jesus was not someone who was invited to Davos. Jesus was up in here, probably you, in people's faces who weren't trying to hear it, saying crazy sounding shit, and they punished him. I mean, if you're going to talk about
him for it,
they killed him ultimately.
They killed him for it. And then for the next 2,000 years, white people used that moment to justify all of their bullshit. Like every great act of evil that has occurred on this planet has been justified through God. People have been using God as a weapon. People have been using Jesus as a as a crutch, as a way of avoiding responsibility because he died for my sins. Well, what happens when a bitch that looks like the devil walks the earth? What happens when this shit gets real? And well, you know what? The devil is just can just do whatever the fuck she wants because Jesus died for my sins, right?
Yeah, I mean, like Jesus got you,
it's
right?
Really, I want to a lot of work that I'm doing now and things that I'm trying to produce now. I want to recreate I want to create a new image of God. I want to create an image of God that people can see themselves in. But also the trick here is getting people to believe in it. I can run around under the guise of Mary Magdalene, I have, my Mary Magdalene. And I have all of the music I need to make this bitch so fucking real, it might almost be undeniable. I don't know, but this is the way my mind works. Can you imagine, Trey? Can you just imagine that? And this is where my pride for 2020, where I was going to take everything that I have done and consolidate it in an epic fucking I want to reset, simulate an exodus or a movement of people. Mm-hmm. So and what I've learned and what I've been learning how to do, and Pride is really the only space that I've been able to accomplish this in. There is an energy at Pride, and there is a force, and where Pride is our moment to live and show our asses. It is the time where we get to show the world who we are. And it is imperative that we stand together when we're in Pride. So what I have figured out how to do is that everyone responds to music. Everybody loves music. So I go and I play my music. And last year, I got all of these women to climb on top of a cop car, twerking on a cop car. We literally took all of DuPont Circle and marched they followed me in the street around DuPont Circle. And then we came up to a gate, and this girl said, "There's a gate. We can't go anywhere. It's a dead end." I'm like, "Honey, we're going through this gate, and we're going into the parade. You want to be in the parade? Y'all want to be in the parade? Yeah, we want to be in the parade." So next thing you know, I have a fucking, little small exodus of twerking queer brown and black bodies moving through this fucking parade. And it was just so big that it became our own. We took space in this fucking parade. And, it didn't matter whether the people, if the float behind us thought we were crazy. It didn't matter whether security did, no, didn't matter. Want to know why? Because we have the strength in numbers. What if I was by myself? Yeah, it probably would have, security might have been like, "Oh my God, get her out of here." But no, there's, over 200 fucking people following this bitch in the fucking street, crashing this parade. And there's nothing you can do about it. And
also, this is actually, and what's, not only is there nothing they can do about it, probably, it actually, I think a lot of people in that situation also recognize that this is what it's really about. This is not about a Coca-Cola, Capital One, Walmart float,
It's
to the extent that it's about us. But it's not even about the mainstream us. It's this is actually what it's about, is the people that we think we're better than in our community. The people who, if you go all the way back to Stonewall or pre-Stonewall or whatever, it wasn't a well-adjusted, closeted, white male cis lawyer who was the one fighting for our freedom. It was the people who are willing to put their bodies on the line and their lives on the line like you do. That's what got us here. That's what got us all these corporate sponsorships and gay marriage and, quickly eroding protections in this current state. So I think that a lot of people wouldn't even know, deep down, when you see the truth like that, some people's reaction is to snuff it out as fast as they can. But most people in a pride situation are actually, that is what we came here for. And that is why people respond that's why you got random people following you, is because they're like, that's the only bitch here who knows what this shit is about.
Yeah. And, it's no longer, there's no way that you can just stand on a soapbox and preach and, speak the gospel and do what Jesus did by using words and forming, parable, whatever the fuck. No, it's just too open to interpretation, words are confusing where we have been trying to figure out love and life since the beginning. And, writing it down and trying to figure out what it's all about. Really, at the end of the day, for me, at least, and I don't know, where anybody else stands on this, but it's about being here in the moment. It's about inspiring other people to be whoever they think they are. It's creating an environment where, society may not think that twerking in the street and carrying a cross is, orthodox or whatever. But actually, there's a freedom here. There's something that you can't deny, something that can't be spoken. There is a spirit, there's an energy, there is a life here, and it is demanding to live. People don't. People need to see that. People need to see that because we don't see it. We don't see it, and we don't see it often enough. And I'm sorry, but we can't. Music and movies and Hollywood and all of that. They've gotten close, but at the end of the day, it's not good enough.
And it's not authentic enough. Just one brief moment. I'm not sure if you're shaking whatever your laptop's on, but it's just you're very passionate. So I just want to make sure that it doesn't fall off. One of the things I was going to say is just specifically around the future of performance, because it is critical to have a mass of people, and usually that's in person. And now not only is there the idea that your safety is, threatened because of who you are, but like everyone's safety is threatened because of this virus. And the thing is, how can you adjust what you're doing to account for a time where just the sheer act of being around anybody is, highly suspect?
Safety has always been a privilege that I never had. And I've always walked understanding that I need to be on my P's and Q's when I'm out in the world, because it's not safe. And the world is a dangerous place when you look like me doing what I do, and that goes for any of us, really. The world is not a safe place. And, we need to recognize that the world is not a safe place. And coronavirus is going to pass. It was prophesized. I don't know where, did you see it? Did you see that meme? That, there's, oh my God, I wish I could, I don't want to take time because then I'm going to have to look for it. But I mean, there was like some sidekick had professed that a respiratory illness was going to plague the planet.
I did see that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Early on, people were like, this shit, okay.
What we're seeing right now is what are we going to do after coronavirus? Because we cannot go back. And if Trump gets reelected, we are going to permanently cement our unsafeness in this society. And it takes all of us to fight this. That assimilation is not the answer. That looking the other way, how dare you remain silent in a time like this when your voice matters the most, And it may not matter the most, maybe that's wrong, but your voice matters. And everyone, we all have shit to say, and we all have ideas about what is happening, but there's no denying the truth. We all know the truth. We all know the truth of this shit. We all know. So we at the end of the day.
What would you say? How would you define the truth as you see it?
I think that the truth is that we are living in the consequence of colonization, and that we have forgotten our own place in the world. that we have been so disenfranchised for so long that, you know, to go out and fight for something is an act of rebellion. You know, doing what I do is me going out and dancing in the street and saying fuck all of this is an act of rebellion. It is an act that says I'm not buying America's bullshit anymore. And in fact, even though I identify as an American and I was born in Miami, Florida, I recognize that calling myself as an American means that I am carrying the weight of genocide, slavery, persecution, misogyny, burning women at the stake. We need to know the true history of our country. And that is hard to reconcile for a lot of people when the truth is that our past has just been swept under the rug and nobody's acknowledged it. So it is continuously haunting us in today's world because it has never been rectified. And now we're paying for the sins of people who lived 300-400 fucking years ago. Like, it doesn't just go
you know
away.
what? The bill comes due. You know? And I think it might be fucking due.
Karma's gonna come cash her check. And
stimulus check.
When Judgment Day hits America, do you really want to be there for it? Do you really want to know?
Or do you really want to have been silent?
You know,
do you really want to be over there like defending it? And then the judgment comes and you're like, well, I just didn't think it was my place. I didn't think it was okay. You know, I never thought it was okay to kill trans people so maliciously and without any accountability, but I didn't feel like it was my right to say something, or I didn't know if it was okay to, make sure that we were snatching land from Native Americans, the very little land they have left, and putting oil lines through it. But like, well, why was it for me to say something? Or shooting Negroes in the streets who jog? Like, I'm not a cop, whatever. It's like, we all have a part to play. And if you refuse to play it, then, get what comes.
I feel like the silent are damned. And, the reason that every world leader in our on earth right now is a fucking raging lunatic. And all of our world leaders are fucking imbeciles who don't give a fuck about the people that they govern. And it's not just America. It's a fucking global crisis. It is a global issue. Bolsonaro, he's a fucking cocksucker.
I mean, that's probably...
it's everywhere. And this is why we need to reclaim space, and we need to be as loud and visible and in your fucking face as possible, because at the end of the day, those who don't use their voices, history is made for them. If you sit in silence and you don't speak up, well, you're going to live in a world designed by other fucking people. And these other fucking people don't give a fuck about you and yours. So you need to speak up and you need to go do something. I don't care what you do. Do something. Go out on a corner and hold a fucking sign that says Black Lives Matter. Do that. Go out on a fucking street corner. Do something. Do something. There's no way, not just a post on social media, something in real time. Go do something, say something, and the only way through this is through the unity of the people. And we have to come together. There's one solution, Trey, to all of the world's problems, or at least a good chunk of them. And that is the unification of the people. When the people come together and unite and demand social justice and reformation, we gon' get it.
we gon' get it, and we need it. And I think that it's people like you who I am just so. It's interesting because I think that you're a mirror to me. Like I have gone through many scenarios where I felt like I was the space was not designed for me. But I've done a pretty good job in most of the places in my life to like, I wouldn't say assimilate, but to like get what I kind of needed out of those places without feeling, destroyed or, disrespected terribly. And I can kind of go through a lot of those spaces without needing to kind of like challenge them to the root, like the way that you do. And so when I see people like you who are like having so much more to lose and putting it all on the line all the time, I think it's a challenge. Even to people like me who say I'm woke, like I'm doing a, YouTube series, I'm doing some, flags with interesting phrases on them, honoring people. It's like, you really do have to push yourself to the edge of what you feel comfortable doing, because that's when you're demanding change. I could come up with a way to kind of like urge people a little bit to get out of their comfort zone and show them people who I think are doing a little bit with all that they have. But I think it's more important for us to use this time to put ourselves in places that we don't feel are familiar to us, and then demand in those spaces, like, this is what the fuck the right thing to do is. And I'm willing to kind of put myself out there and challenge you to do that too. Yeah. So I really appreciate the fervent and kind of like passionate and pulling no punches approach with how you put your message out there, because I feel like there needs to be a million yous,
There are a million me's, and people just don't give themselves the chance to, peel back all of the social conditioning that we have been taught. You know how hard it was for me in the beginning to do like, my ego was hanging by a fucking thread, and I had to come to terms with, actually, the way that I was raised and the things that I've been taught are actually fucked up, and I need to dismantle a lot of conditioning. And that's a lot of work, and that's work that no one's going to pay me to do. That's work that no one is going to acknowledge and give me a fucking reward for. That's work that I do because it, for me, that's inside work. And a lot of the work that we need to do starts with us, and it starts with me. It starts with you. It starts, and like I said before, there's one solution to all of these problems, and that's us coming together. And since the beginning, most of my work has been centered around this idea that I might actually be able to pull off uniting the people, or at least making it look like I'm doing it. No one else on planet Earth is trying to unite the people on a regular basis. And that is the one thing that needs to happen. It is the one moment in time that we are all waiting for. It is this one global, beautiful happening, is that the people finally coming together, humanity finally coming together.
Well, this is a crisis that I think has provided, it's not being used that way, at least very often, but I'm like, how often do we have something happen in the world where every single person in the world is affected by it? Maybe not the exact same, but everyone, Miss Rona done hit every house.
She hit everywhere.
So it's like, and there's like even in a war, you're still against someone,
Do you remember in the Bible, it said, what was it? That fucking Moses went, putting fucking lamb's blood. There was going to be a pestilence or something like that. And they put like fucking like blood or something on the doors, and the pestilence didn't, get in.
Skip their homes.
Stay your ass home, and, you won't die. You won't catch corona or whatever. Like, like corona is not, she coming for all of us, but it's also, coronavirus is not enough. We need something else. We need something to permanently destroy the economy for good.
You say, you hear that one? You hear that? Oh,
we need I would really like, and this is being able to go to like Pride, San Diego Pride and San Francisco Pride and New York Pride and DC Pride and fucking Provincetown and all of that, and being able to create a situation where now I have a bunch of random people following me in the street dancing. That, for me, is probably the most important thing that I could have learned to do. because it, in essence, creates a spontaneous moment of unity where, like, actually we can do this. Everybody believes that it's impossible. Everybody believes that we can't come together, that we have too many differences. But really, when you just get a bunch of people together, people are just people. And when you know people, and let me tell you, I know people. I know people so fucking well that I can play a song and have them hitting the floor with their asses in 5 seconds. I know people. I know how to take the human spirit and convince and spark it in a crowd of people so that they too can feel the love of this moment, so that they too can be a part of it, so that they can feel alive, so that they can, realize that, like, bitch, this is fucking it. And Corona, let me tell you, she did fuck me up for summer 2020, because the one thing that I have not been able to accomplish, it's video. Like, I've gotten little snippets of me being able to do this Piper shit, little snippets, but nothing that is going to convince America that I might be the Messiah.
Dan, we'll have to wait till next year.
You're gonna have to wait till 2021.
Well,
that's just it. Like, I really want to challenge one of the most oppressive systems of belief in our society. I really want to challenge the fundamental beliefs of religion, because most of our problems in society stem from a illness in our spirituality. It stems from a disconnect from our own divine source, that we have believed in gold-covered horse shit and ate that shit up like it was a fucking buffet. And nobody questions nobody questions it. I'm sorry, but you know what? It's easier for me to believe that Mother Mary was raped than she was touched by God. It's easier for me to believe that I'm going to challenge the very fabric of their faith. And I want to, if I can pull off Mary Magdalene, if I can pull this off, Trey, let me tell you, the world ain't ready. I mean, they are going to flip a shit. If I can pull this off, let me tell you, Trey.
I mean,
they're gonna want to stone me. I may not be safe. They might actually want to kill me.
I think that, like, people listening to this might want to, let alone if you actually accomplish what you're talking about. I think that one of the things that's interesting is that, so like there's no prides, so you can't do what you plan to, but yet here we all are with desperate need to kind of adopt at least some facets of this philosophy. How could you use this time to kind of make other queens? Have you thought about, or like, how would you deputize people? Because I mean, the way you're going to take over is not just you, because you can't be everywhere, but you having people everywhere that
spirit of me, queen of all the wise, can live in the hearts and minds of all who have the ears to hear her message, or some bullshit like that. I'm just saying that it's sparking a life in people. It's bringing people to life, and it's using that life and that state of being to force them to reconsider what they're thinking. And the people who suffer when they see me, the people who struggle with it, are the people who refuse to let go of their old way of thinking. People who refuse to think outside of the box. People who refuse to allow what I'm doing to challenge their faith. How dare you question my faith? Well, you know what?
It's like, you're not questioning your faith. That's probably the problem. You're not questioning your faith.
You're not questioning your faith. Two can play at that game. Jesus never could have resurrected because Mary Magdalene buried him in the ground. She dragged his sorry ass out of that fucking cave and buried him in the fucking dirt. And I don't believe in the resurrection. And there is nothing you can do to tell me otherwise. I'm sorry, excuse me. How dare you challenge my faith? Don't question me. Do you know who the fuck I think I am?
Well, I mean, I think that there is a long way to go for people to have the kind of like flexibility in their thinking to accept that, like, if they're asking for what they think they are to be accepted, then they also have to ask. They can't just tolerate, treat those people however you want. You're like, if I want to be fully realized and act that way and be respected, then I also not only have to accept that other person, I have to fight for their right to be accepted for whatever they are. And I think that that is the problem, is that people are, and I think that your power, the power of your performance and like because the things you're saying, while they are like wrapped in extremely kind of volatile and, kind of as blasphemic a word, I don't know, but it's like,
what's more
it's like,
blasphemic than using God to commit genocide?
I mean, truly, right? Truly. I mean, I'm in no way disagreeing with the premises that you're talking about. I'm just saying that a lot of people won't get past the delivery. But I think that the delivery is why it's artful important. And impactful and important, because you're like, this is what the fuck, it needs to be this in your face, because otherwise you will not acknowledge it.
Where did I put my cross? Hold on.
And I think I see those devil horns in the back, right beneath Jesus.
Where did I put him? Jesus, where art thou, Jesus? There is nothing that I can do with this cross. Nothing. I can shove this cross so far up my ass and pull it out my throat and then shit on a fucking altar. And I still will get into heaven. Want to know why? Because I wasn't one of those people running around with a cross, screaming genocide and kill them all. I wasn't the one using God to justify the abuse of women and centuries of persecution of Black people. This fucking thing has been used to commit great acts of evil, and every great act of evil has been like, the only evil on this planet is mankind. And who's going to be the person to tell mankind that they can no longer use God to rationalize their evil nature? And actually, Jesus died for our sins, which I think is a crock of shit. But, the devil can't be blamed either, because, bitch, the devil goes back to heaven now. I'm just taking their own bullshit stories and reinstituting them in a way that forces them to, like, I don't know. I don't know.
Well, it's satire in a sense, but it's also like you're really criticizing them, and I think that like you sometimes have to see your stuff put so far out of whack that like you're like, this is actually like, I get what they're saying. It's not, I think that sometimes you need to see a woman shaking her ass with a devil horn and a cross and saying, see me, and in order for you to see yourself. And I think that that is kind of like where we're at. Things are so out of whack that sometimes a performer that you didn't know you needed, who is the most outrageous thing you could probably summon in your mind, is exactly the thing you needed to kind of find out who you are and what your voice could be. And I think that you're right. Like this is the time to find your voice. This is the time to say some shit, because the shit is going down. And if we don't say something soon in whatever format we can do,
crazier things are happening in our world right now than whatever it is that you're thinking. There is crazier fucking shit happening in our society right now. And you questioning, the fallacies of what, is not a big deal. Using your voice, even if you may not be wrong, maybe if you might be wrong, you could be wrong. And you know what? Who knows? I could go to hell when I die. I don't know. But I mean, let me tell you, I'm going to leave my fucking mark before I go. Like, I will not waste a fucking moment of this one precious life that I may got, because, I might end up having to come back. I don't know if reincarnation is real. Let me tell you, I don't know. I'd like to come back better than I was before. Which means, you know, and I'm not. People, you believe whatever the fuck you want to believe, but you can't use your beliefs to attack and demonize other people. That's not what they're there for. And at the end of the day, what you believe doesn't matter. But if what you believe forces you to commit acts of evil, like commit acts of violence, then maybe the problem is what you believe. And people are so hesitant to look at themselves in the mirror and be like, actually, you know what? I was wrong. You know what? Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe this is, you know, maybe there's something, you know, whatever, you know, maybe I'm not right. But even in people's wrongness, they still will fight for their wrongness.
Well, I think that people saying they're wrong is like a huge step in a, that's a far different, if your performance can convince someone that this thing that they've been told their entire lives, that their entire salvation hinges upon, might be wrong, then you've accomplished something that almost no scholar, politician, debater, cop is able to convince someone of. Typically, that's the very last thing. If you can get someone to question and re-examine their most deeply held beliefs because it feels right to do so, then that is the power of performance right there. I don't care what other impacts you're looking for. If you can do that with even a small sample of people, then you've struck upon something revolutionary.
It is, you know, and that's for me, I've always believed that the revolution begins within ourselves, and that I've always believed that we have an obligation, like a responsibility to us, to the individual, to me, to figure myself out. I have an obligation to society to think things in a different way, because clearly things aren't working, that these old ways of thinking aren't serving us anymore. And honestly, really, I like to tell myself that by the time I'm done, no one is even going to know who Jesus fucking Christ was, because that motherfucker has done more harm than fucking good. You know, but this is the culture that we live in. I only believe in this shit. You know, this only matters to me, I think, because I was raised in America, where you could not cross. You can't walk 5 feet without seeing Jesus Christ somewhere.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of places where it's like that, and it's like it does seep in. Well, Qween, I feel like this has been a wonderful conversation. I mean, as usual, you kept it all the way 1,000,000,000% real. And I think that that's the kind of energy and passion and kind of fearlessness that we're going to need in droves in order to get anywhere that we need to get to. So I just really appreciate you sharing that with me, with everyone watching. Can
I say just one more thing?
Absolutely, please.
That I think at this point in time that the salvation of our world really lies in the hands of the artist. It really lies in people who are willing and able to go out and take something and make it new. And to go out and, during this is not wasted time, coronavirus, being locked in a house. No, I'm, and for me, and I speak for myself, that I am going to do what I can, creating content, editing content, using my voice, putting my voice in videos or whatever it is, using social media, doing whatever it is that I can. And if I, need to go out and get some footage and dance in a corner, or, whatever, I can do that. But also we need to understand the value of each other, and we need to consistently fight for one another. I may not be at the brunt of a police cop right now, but I could be tomorrow. I may not be at the head of a gun right now, but I could be tomorrow. My tits are coming in. And let me tell you, that is a cross that no man can bear. Because even, I'm also worried too about where that is, how that is going to affect my art. Having boobs. How is that going to change? I don't know. Because the world doesn't respect women at all. And I think the only reason that I have gotten away with a lot of the things that I've gotten away with and done, on top of cop cars and all sorts of fucking crazy shit that no one in their right state of mind would even try, But can I do that with boobs? Will my male privilege, where's, because really at the end of the day, I have counted on my male privilege to keep me safe. And my privilege as a man, as opposed to being a woman. And I'm just throwing that out the window now that I'm grown boobs and I'm going to look like a woman. I don't know. That might be, I don't know. I'm scared, really. I'm terrified. I'm terrified. But also, I think it is important because there is no other trans woman in America or the fucking world who is going to have the balls to go out and do this fucking shit. And you know what? If I die, fine. Get me off this fucking rock and let it be. Like, I've had enough. Because every time I come back, let me tell you, the world just gets worse and worse and worse. Like, I'm really, I'm tired of being human. I want off this planet.
Well, I think that those last 2 minutes said it all. So, Qween, love you so much. I cannot wait to see you again. Thank you so much for joining me and for being on What We Gonna Do. You've given us a lot to think about.
We're gonna shake our ass, and really, we are gonna do the best we can.
That's what we're doing right now, honestly.
The best we can.
So. All right, take care, Qween. Bye.
Oh my goodness! As promised, Jessa's fiery and effervescent and brilliant and hilarious as anyone's ever been. Qween, I love you very much. I pray for your safety, just like I pray for my own. I think that people like you who are going out there demanding the world be different and telling it about itself, however and whenever it needs to be told, are treasures. And so I am so glad to call you a friend, and I am so proud of you, and I'm so glad that you've shared your wisdom and your honest experiences and your insight with us on this program. This is exactly what we are building this platform for, is to feature voices like yours, and who are kind of giving us examples of true leadership and courage and hilarity and activism. It's going to take a fucking million queens to move this world, and I am glad that we at least have found one. So some highlights or some takeaways that I think are really important to focus on. One is extremely fundamental, and it's that we have the right to exist. That should not be something that takes a whole parade or a rebellion or a movement or a law, to kind of justify, but it often does. We have the right to exist. Black people, we have the right to exist. Trans people, they have the right to exist. Black trans people, who we've seen, murdered ceaselessly, in recent years. Don't think it's not happening during all of this other shit. I know there's been several murders just in the last few months. It's just so hard to even keep track of it. Well, it's not hard. It's actually quite easy. But, it gets lost in the conversation that we have. But I have a right to exist is a powerful statement. And it's one that is among the most threatening statements there can be to some people. Going into a space that is not designed for you, that contains people who'd rather you not exist, is powerful and scary. And so I think that, being able to remember that, like, this shit is that deep. It is that fundamental. We are that threatened by certain people that them just saying, I have the right to exist, triggers authoritarian governments, triggers murder, triggers firing and kind of eviction. Every single thing that you can do to a person does happen to people merely for saying, I have the right to exist, accept me, let me be. And that's a damn shame. And so I think that, again, Qween, your mere existence is a revolutionary act, and I wish it was not. Mine is. I'm a gay black man with fucking opinions and shit to say who don't mind saying them, and, who is oftentimes the only black or gay person in the environment they're in. Less and less, I will say. I have less and less patience for the types of environments that would only cultivate one person like that. It's like life is too short, and people are too ignorant to kind of, endure situations like that needlessly. So anyway, I'm so glad you proclaimed your right to exist, because it shouldn't even be that big a deal. But, this is America. Freedom ain't free. I think that is something, again, it seems glib, but it ain't. Freedom literally wasn't free for my people. I think that even if you're white, your freedom is not free. It comes at the cost of murder and, systemic inequity and racism, and turning a blind eye to evil and acting like it is free, or that like the debt's been paid in 1792, or, whatever side of the war you were on in the 1800s. I don't know how y'all think it's free, but I'm saying that freedom isn't free. It is something that comes at a price, whether you pay it or someone else pays it for you. I think it's incredibly important to acknowledge that like it does come at a high price, and especially if you don't have it yet, like most of us, we can't walk down the streets or, expect our lives to be kind of just, hey, I am who I am, and I expect that to be enough, and I'm just going to live my life like everyone else. No. It's naive to think that it's something that is just existing and doesn't require our active participation and retrieval. And so I think that it's really important to say, you got to fight for what you want. And if we want freedom, we have to fight for it. We are fighting for it. All the chaos and ridiculousness that we've been seeing this last week or two at this point is due to the necessary fight for our freedom. And they ain't giving it up. Whoever you think, first of all, this is a more philosophical discussion, kind of like who has the freedom. Is freedom something that you're obtaining from someone else, or is freedom something that you are kind of lies within that you need to unlock? We could get into that, but either way, you have to do the hard work of getting it. And I think that if we don't all fight for it, none of us will have it. I think that if, what's the quote? No one's free unless everyone's free. If it's not a quote, then, I'm saying that shit. I think that if you think that your freedom is independent of every other person's, you're wrong. I think that all of us need to understand that, like, if one of us ain't free, maybe they ain't coming for the gays today, but they coming for the blacks. And if they're not coming for the blacks or gays, they're coming for the Mexicans or the immigrants or the Asians or, the trans people or the Jewish people or the Muslim people or the disabled people or the poor people or the unhoused people or the unhoused people. And it will never stop. It could go, the list goes on and on and on. So if you think that your freedom is yours and yours alone and it's inviolable and it doesn't depend, like, that's why it's so frustrating to see these people marching at the Capitol talking about your freedom ends when mine begins or some shit. It's like, no, dude, none of our freedom begins if it ever ends. So I think that that's something that we really need to be taking to heart. And I'm glad that it's something that came up in this conversation. And I think that, the idea that we all need to be fighting for all of it is real. And if your freedom is only contingent on my oppression, then we have a serious fucking problem. If the only way you think you can be free or get what you want or get what you have or keep what you have is to oppress other people, then first of all, like, you're shitty. You don't deserve anything. You should be able to get what you need, kind of working alongside everyone else in this world. And it's the people that we're grappling against right now who believe that they deserve it inherently, and we inherently do not, and that they shouldn't have to work to keep it, and they shouldn't have to change to give everyone else equal opportunity. It's like, I guess you kind of play with the hand you're dealt. If you're dealt, a hand and you black in this country, then your entire life is spent surviving despite that and having to be stronger and better and more resilient in order to succeed in it. And, that should not have to be the case. And for people who are dealt a hand where they benefit from oppression and white supremacy and racism, it is up to them to spend their whole lives dismantling that, lest they have to live with a shitty ass life where they know that they only have what they have because of that hand, and that's some shit for your ass, because I don't know what that would feel like. I don't know what it would feel like to know deep in my heart that most of the things I have were built on the backs of other people, and never acknowledge that and never lift a finger to try and fight that. That's what a lot of our white friends are going through right now. And I don't feel bad because like that's what's necessary. Look what we're dealing with. But I'm telling you, it's like if you're a white person, you're watching this and you're over here saying like, what's he talking about? Like I worked really hard for all the shit I have, blah, blah, blah. You may have, but that you worked on it in a system that is a white supremacist system that you've benefited from, where none of the things that I have to fear, you do. And if you think that that's cool to maintain, like, you know what, I got mine and I wasn't personally racist. We're all in a racist ass stew. So we all stink of it. And some of us actually benefit from that. So if you're one of those people, I would spend a long time thinking about how either to dismantle that system or to help other people navigate it, because just acting like, water's water, we're all swimming in it. Nah, nigga, this is racist stew. So anyway, I think that is it, except, there was one last point the Queen made, is that we're in danger right now. Like some of us are unsafe. Some of us are of color. Some of us are trans. Some of us are whatever we are that makes us unsafe. But there is this kind of belief and this possibility that it doesn't have to be this way. It can be some other way. And you can't skip forward to the end. We don't know what it looks like to have achieved all of that, but we can start chipping away at it. And there is a way to kind of like slow everything down and eventually start to progress in a more and more positive and lasting and sustainable direction. But we seem to be hurtling toward a precipice where if we don't get it together, we are going to permanently be unsafe. We are going to cement I believe Queen said, we're going to cement our unsafeness. And that is fucking terrifying. And that could be because the environmental impacts are irrevocable and will destroy this planet no matter what we do, no matter how many quarantines we have, whether it's, electing a president who puts in place protections for the wealthy that truly leads to kind of like a forever police state because the chasm has become so wide, it's the only way to maintain it. And any semblance of a free and open society that we have now will be gone. Whether it's a permanent racial chasm where the people who have been oppressed for so long are so done that reconciliation or kind of cooperation goes out the window. Like y'all done too much. So I think that like all that stuff is unnecessary. We certainly have the time and we have the people and we have the know-how and we have the ability to keep that from happening. But like we got to work together soon and hard if we are going to avoid that catastrophe, that permanent and irrevocable catastrophe, because like that's not a place that I think anyone wants to live in. I don't care. Rupert Murdoch don't want to live in that world. He probably won't make it. But I mean, the Rupert Murdoch of the next generation or whatever, like you don't want to live in a world where any of the things I just described are happening. So I don't mind saying anything I said. I meant all that shit. I'm really have an interest in us avoiding that future because it seems to be on the table. And as long as I'm alive, I will fight to make sure it's not. Just the same as Queen and Tara and Tyler and everyone else we're going to have on this program. No one on this program is coming on here unless they about that life too. So know that.